Ready? One, two. Hey guys, Casey Rollins back here once again for another episode of Countercast. I don't have any slogan for the show yet, but I'm sure that once I do get one, I'll put it here. Um, First of all, I just want to really give another shout out to Alex Gleason because I'm really grateful that he decided to join the show. It was a really good discussion. I really hope that we could get to have him on again. But if in the future, if you want to be a guest on the program, all you have to do is just hit me up on the Fediverse. You can find me at Real Casey Rollins at Quoto.org. That's QOTO.org. Or you can actually probably find me on mstdn.social. And the handle I go by is always at Real Casey Rollins. So if you hit me up at those two, you have a higher chance um, of me like responding. Now, of course, um, I am also on Gleasonator, and so with that account, I'm not that active on it, but I'm trying out Subway Tutor and the way that Subway Tutor works. It seems like it supports why am I push notifications. It supports push notifications. So if you want to hit me up on there, I will see it as long as you mention me. So um, with MSTDN.social and Gleasonators where I'll get the push notifications because the apps support push notifications. Anyways, what I'm going to talk about this time. I'm not going to talk about anything. Well, I might talk about some controversial things, but one thing I really want to address is because I've been a tech nerd for a while. I really want to focus this episode on tech and talk about tech a lot. The big thing I want to talk about is Motorola just came out with these new phones, and for context, okay, I'm relatively young. That's my exact age, relatively young. Relatively young. I own one smartphone and it's the only smartphone I've ever owned. It's the Moto X4, which I got nearly 2 years ago. So I have this smartphone. It's not bad. It came out actually in 2017, so it's by now it's ancient. But it works okay. Google Play Services doesn't always behave like it's supposed to, and it doesn't have a lot of space on there, so it's hard to install new apps because I have to keep on deleting old stuff, and I take a lot of pictures too, so that takes up a lot of space. But anyways, so I have this old Motorola phone, okay, and the thing with Motorola phones, sorry, yeah, I have this old Motorola phone, and the thing with Motorola phones is, um, like they tend to be cheap and they make new ones every year. And so last year they came out with this Moto G7 Power that I was really interested in because it had a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is like one of the bigger batteries on a phone. I don't think it's the biggest battery in a phone because I think there's probably a phone out there with like 6,000 milliamp hours, but 5,000 milliamp hours ain't bad. So it looked pretty cool. But then I was like, you know what? I just got this phone like almost a year ago. Do I really need a new one right now? Answer now is yes. So I'm going to try to get one over the summer break. And I've kind of narrowed it down to a few options. Now, Motorola did just come out with a Moto G Power, which is like the G8 Power, but I guess they're tired of just upping the number, so they're just going to keep on calling it the G. Internationally, it is known as the G8 Power, but I'm just going to call it the G Power because that's what they're calling it here in America. So, this Moto G Power, right? It's like basically the same. I think it has like more RAM though and more space. And I think that's about it, right? The processor's a bit better, of course. But I feel like here's the thing. People don't need to buy new phones. I think it will probably be a long time before I buy a new phone. And I don't mean I'm going to buy all my phones used. I think that that's probably a foolish endeavor. But what I mean is I'm like when I decide to like buy a phone, I'm not gonna just find a phone and be like, yo, what's the newest Motorola phone? Or like if I want to go with another line, like let's say not Amazon Pixel, Amazon Pixel. I don't know what that is. But let's say like the Google Pixel with the Pixel 3a, I think is what it's called. What if I'm like, I want to get the 4A and like because like by the time I pick a phone, the 4A might be out. I don't know. I'm not gonna just pick a phone just because it's new. I feel like if there's an old phone, I don't know what that is. If there's an old phone that works for you, I feel like no, you shouldn't have an issue with just buying it because here's the thing: if the phone works, it works, and if it has all the features that you're gonna need, I wouldn't stress about it being old, especially if you don't care about software updates. Like I care about software updates, but it's not like a huge deal. Um, Of course, now here's the part where gonna be going like telling me, no, dude, you're gonna leave your phone vulnerable, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, it's maybe I'll have to look up and see what kind of vulnerabilities have been patched over the past several months, but I don't know if any of them have been particularly life changing, and I don't know if the world is gonna end as soon as I get a phone that doesn't have monthly updates. And in all likelihood, my phone's gonna be within 2 years old when I get it, so it's not like it's gonna be like old and gray. Like it's probably gonna be fine. Um, it's just that like out the get go, it's gonna have a little age, but it's probably gonna be supported because my phone is still supported. It's a Moto X4. It just got a monthly security update like a week or two ago. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't understand like people who are like, oh no, this phone's like the latest and the greatest and it's cool. It's like the cool phone. I do understand wanting to have the cool phone. I've wanted to have the cool phone for a long time, but when you actually go and look at it, like, what do you want your phone to actually do? Um, Apple has really mastered two things. Like I went back and looked at like some of their old pages for their iPhones. Went back to I think the iPhone X and the iPhone 8. And I noticed that like when you look and see, what they focus their product on and tried to pitch to their customers, they've really focused on like two things. And they're not anything substantive, like at all. It's it looks cool and it takes good pictures. Now here's the thing, yes, I mean taking good pictures is like good. But when you consider that it's a phone, you can buy a camera. Like now for the prices that phones are now, you can buy a camera at the same price as a smartphone for like the same price, and it'll be like way better too. So for all these $1,800 phones, just get an $800 camera. You could probably get a $400 camera, and it'll be way better than anything you'll get in an iPhone. It's actually pretty laughable. I think that there are people out there who upgrade their iPhones just because they want a better camera. The phone probably works fine. They just want a better camera. It's ridiculous because you're swapping out like it's technology. It's not just a camera. It's like a computer. So I think you should just get it for its primary use, which is just like social media, texting and calling people. If it has a cool camera, fine. But another thing too is that like if you want a new camera, just get a new camera. It's gonna be cheaper, and you'll still have all the stuff on your phone. Like you're not gonna have to worry about any kind of like data migration, having to migrate stuff from your old phone to your new phone because there is no new phone. You still have your old phone, which works perfectly fine. Now, of course, you have issues with people being like, "Oh, phones get sluggish." I think I'm hearing that iPhones they get like slow over time. I mean, and another thing too is that of course they like made it so that the operating system like throttled the performance of the phone so that it wouldn't shut off randomly. I haven't heard of that happening on Android phones for a while, so you're in the clear on that one. But it's like Apple focuses on the cool factors. It looks cool. It feels cool. It's smooth because it's got glass. Watch it shatter when you drop it on a tabletop. Um, it's utterly ridiculous. And then when you look at Android phones are like, yo, it's like they rarely say we're cool and we take good pictures. Like I mean, a lot of them do pitch themselves on good pictures, but a lot of them actually pitch themselves on having new features. And the funny thing is, I thought that was what Apple used to be known for, making new features. We're inventors. We think different. So our phones are different. Why? Because we have all of these cool features that you didn't think to have. We have fingerprint sensors on a flagship phone. What do you know? Ain't that cool? We got glass on our phones. No, wait, hold on. That's not a feature. That's just an aesthetic change that actually, I don't know how much, improvement that adds to your phone. Here's the thing. Apple, I feel like Apple's like really switched from like wanting to have cool features and innovations to just wanting to look cool and appeal to the masses, which I guess is fine. I guess it works out, but they've hit critical mass in America, and I don't care. Like, you really shouldn't be wanting to buy a new phone. Like, if you want to buy a new phone because it's cool, you're insecure and you have other things that you need to worry about. I'm being serious. You should, because really, a phone is not something that you have. A phone is something that you use. So, if you want a phone, like decide that you want a phone and not like a trophy, and then pick a phone that'll work. Otherwise, get a used iPhone X that does not work at all. It's completely bricked. Okay, boom, there you go. Cool factor. I know it's not very cool that it doesn't work, but it's cool that you have it. It's a status symbol. I could afford to spend $1,000 on a phone. Look at me. I must be worth more than you because I have more money. It's ugly. It's dumb. It's dumb. I'm seeing this trend in streetwear a little bit too. And if any of you noticed me, I think a month or two, I started kind of paying more attention. I started watching this YouTube channel called Frugal Aesthetic, and I started paying more attention to kind of fashion and aesthetic things like that. And it's kind of interesting because there's this. It's hard to tell who's actually into the fashion and who's just being the hype beast because hype beasts, they will just go and find a brand, okay, any brand, and it doesn't really matter if the design is intelligent. It doesn't matter if it actually looks good or feels good or actually is practical. If it belongs to the name brand, if it belongs to the name brand, and if it's expensive, they're gonna buy it. And to me, it's just total foolishness because at that point you're just like, hey, look at me, my clothes say Supreme, boy. That's the silliest thing ever because and I do get it. It's a lot of it is a younger thing. You're not gonna see a bunch of 40-year-olds being like Supreme whoop whoop no, you're not. It's I do understand a lot of people my age are into streetwear as well, and it is kind of cool, but you don't need to go all out and spend a whole bunch of money if you want to have cool looking clothes. Just go on Amazon, bro. Any clothes that you find a cool style for, and here's what I would say: look at all the hype beast clothes, and if you find stuff that you think is cool, then go on Amazon and look for something that has that same style design because it's clear that you don't want. I don't think that you just want the Supreme clothes or the hype beast clothes. You just like the style, and if you genuinely like the style, then you'll be able to go on Amazon and get something, comparable, and be able to enjoy that. So, there's that. Oh man, what else did I want to talk about? Let's see. How about Birds of Prey? I haven't seen Birds of Prey yet. So I want to see Birds of Prey, and I've pretty much decided that I'm gonna go see Birds of Prey if I can get somebody who has a car to also go see it. The thing with Birds of Prey is the reviews are pretty polarizing. And I rely on IMDb for reviews because Rotten Tomatoes kind of has a checkered history with reviews, if you know what I mean. After the whole Captain Marvel debacle, actually, let me go pull this up and see what Captain Marvel has on Rotten Tomatoes because for ratings I typically go to IMDb because IMDb the ratings are mostly driven by the users, at least from what I know of. So let's see, Birds of Prey. Is it P? It's Prey. Yeah. So Birds of Prey IMDb rating and Birds of Prey Rotten Tomatoes. Let me pull this up here. And there we go. Okay, so Birds of Prey IMDb score is back down to 6.7 out of 10. So it was steadily climbing. It was at 6.8, then 6.9, but then it dipped back down to 6.7. And I think it's a fair reflection of what people seem to think about the movie. But then when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it's 80% tomato meter and 81% audience score. And that's out of 7,104 reviews. So, I don't know. Let me compare it to Captain Marvel. Just to see. Because, and actually, I don't even know why I'm comparing this to Captain Marvel. Because they have relatively little in common. Captain Marvel has 48% on the audience score. But then again, it's like nearly 10 times as many people reviewed that movie. What I think is part of the problem with Birds of Prey is, like, from my perspective, I want to know what it's like. Is it good? Is it bad? Here's the problem. Barely anybody's going to see the film. And it's sad. And I kind of wish that more people went to see it because, it's hard for me to get a read on, is this a good movie or is this a bad movie? I'm just having trouble finding enough reviews. Tim Pool doesn't like it. He says it's woke garbage. But I'm not going to watch his review because his review has spoilers. What was his other, who else? Geeks and Gamers had a review. They said it was okay. And most of the reviews I've been hearing say it's okay. One of my friends who is extremely into, he's like a big fan. He has like a high art view of the visual media, the visual medium. So like if he like watches something, he wants it to be critically acclaimed, or he wants it to be like extremely artistic or something like that. It doesn't have to be like that for me, but I do care about quality, and I'm starting to appreciate now more than ever, having something of good quality, because I was watching Mr. Robot, okay, and Mr. Robot, from all that I've heard, is the best show of the 2010s. And, I say the best show of the 2010s because in comparison to Game of Thrones, everybody says Game of Thrones is better. Well, now that both shows are over, I would say Mr. Robot's better because it ends better. It ends way better. From what I've heard, I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but but I heard that the final season was garbage. And the problem with the show is always building up to something. I think it was like a bunch of families fighting over power and land and dragons, right? And so it was all building up to something because there's some sort of prophecy about who's going to sit on some kind of stone seats or something. And so it all built up, and you want to see who's going to win and who's going to rule because, at the end of the story, there's got to be unity between all of the nations, right? And so the way that they just carried it out, it was just bad, and it was terrible. Mr. Robot, it was just like such a beautiful show. Like, I'm pretty sure the cinematography was better than Game of Thrones too. Like, I can't picture any cinematography, at least in a TV show, beating Mr. Robot's. Just from like style, how they do the perspectives, how they handle, a lot of psychological things that like. Just psychological things. They're just like really trippy, and then you're like, wait, what? The fact that they do a really good job of evoking emotion through actions, and it's in the music too. The music is like really good. Like if you ever have a chance, just listen to the music, man. I really like how they use like some of my favorite music though that came from the show. Let me see if I can find this. Unfortunately, I don't think I can play this. But it's two songs that they used. One song that they used in the finale for season 3, if I remember correctly. Another song that they used for the outro, for like the last scene in season 4, which is the final season. And it went together so well. The music and the visuals together makes like such a masterpiece. I really want to go back and rewatch it. But I don't have it anymore. I'm probably gonna like buy it again. Or something. But the first song was Intro by M83. Now, I'd never heard of M83. My geeky, nerdy film artistic dude. He loves M83, or he recognizes music because he knows the artist. But I didn't, and I was listening to it for the first time, and I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. So, there's that intro and outro. Go listen to those two songs. Those songs are amazing. But also, of course, go listen to the soundtrack because the soundtrack is just, whew. It's just really good. It's just really good. I love it. So after that, I'm hearing that Andrew Yang dropped out of the race like yesterday. Which is kind of interesting because like the episode with Alex Gleason like just dropped and we've been talking about him. He was like Yang all the way. Unfortunately, that didn't keep him in the race. I am pretty disappointed, to be honest. I feel like Andrew Yang, he was under attack from the Democrat Party, and he didn't get a fair shot. And I think that he should have gone the Tulsi Gabbard route. Now, Tulsi Gabbard, at this point, it's really sad, but I don't think that she has a chance to win. But, here's the thing with Tulsi, though, is that she's fighting. She is suing Google, and I think she's suing the DNC now, right? I feel like Yang and Tulsi against the world. I would love to see that, because they have just been just treated so unfairly by the Democratic Party. It's almost now that like they deserve to win. It's like, if you have a race, right? And then you sabotage one guy. It kind of makes me feel like, he deserves to win now, because, that this one guy, or these two guys in this instance, they both were so unfairly treated. Clearly the Democratic Party thought that they had a chance. Otherwise they wouldn't have like gone on this scorched earth thing. But it just makes me, it also makes me all the more feel like I want them to win when I see them being treated so badly. Everybody loves to root for an underdog, especially when where like people just keep beating up on them. So let's see. Anything else in politics that I want to talk about? Man, politics has been boring. I haven't been following politics for a while. I guess Joaquin Phoenix story counts as I guess that counts as politics, but I'm not sure that I really want to go there right now. Maybe next episode. One thing is I meant to record 2 episodes of the Countercast last week, but it ended up not working. Now, I have half of an episode recorded, but I'm just gonna end up scrapping it because because I mean all of it I already covered, and also it's just like incomplete. It just wouldn't work right. It's part of it is just like the action of like me like actually like filming. It's just not the same taping 2 halves of an episode together. So I'm just gonna scrap that episode. I'm probably gonna do two episodes this week. Because here's the thing. I do think I need to take a break. One part of it too is that like also I have exams. I have 2 exams this week, but I also have like an exam next week. So I feel like I'm no longer burned out, thankfully. I'm no longer burned out. I got enough rest, so I'm all rested up, boys. But the thing is, I do think I just do need a little bit of rest from the podcast. So, if I am going to, still try and pump out weekly episodes. Some episodes might be shorter than others. This one's probably going to be a little bit short. I might also film another episode today. Well, we'll have to see how that goes. And if I do, that one might be more politics. But I'm probably going to try and balance out the topics I talk about on the show more. I'm not going to talk about politics all the time, but I am going to talk about politics a bunch because I care a bunch about politics. I'm just not going to retread old ground. I've already provided like several hours worth of content already. I'm not going to try and go back to old stuff that we've already been over. Like, yes, we get it. You're pro-life. You talked about that the first 2 or 3 episodes of your show. Okay. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Unless it deserves to be killed. Abortion. Sorry. I'm just a big fan of human rights. My bad. I mean, I'm a human. I feel like that should... here we go. I'm talking about pro-life issues again. Should I hold myself back? I don't know. I just care about this too much, man. I don't know. It doesn't make me an activist. I feel like there are a lot of people who just like say activist. There are a lot of actual activists out there. For someone who just talks about it a lot on social media, I don't know if that counts as activism. And I don't even talk about it enough to consider myself an activist. I just like really, I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for the cause of life. So we have that. I don't know. I don't have anything else. I guess final thoughts. I think I did remember in my mental show notes. I rarely do show notes. I I borderline, actually not borderline, probably do have ADHD. So, I have enough topics bouncing around in my mind brain that I can always come up with like 3 things at least to talk about on the spot. So, I do remember this thing though that I kept in my mental notes. That I did want to kind of touch on, and I was actually debating with myself. I was thinking about this last night actually, as I was shaving, because I shaved last night, and I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was thinking, you know what? I am like super blessed, and I have like some really spectacular friends, and I've really I've really been blessed, just looking at my life. So, I've been thinking, people can go through hard times, and and things can always like not be working out. But like, what's the difference really between things going well and things not going well? Because you can be like happy, and this has happened to me. You can be like happy and joyful when things are not going well for you, and you can also be like really downcast when you look at your life and actually things are actually good. You look at things objectively. So what's the difference between the two? What's the difference between having a good mindset and having a bad mindset? And this is something I've kind of been thinking about a lot. And the end of last semester really kind of forced me to think about this more, because a lot of things weren't going well. I talked about them on the Fediverse, I think, from time to time. A lot of things weren't going well. Just like a couple key points were just like, whoa, these things have like hit me at the same time, and it's like it kind of sucks, right? And then I was definitely downcast during that period, like kind of towards the end of that last semester, and then like over break, and then kind of into like the next semester too. And I was like, why am I feeling this badly? Because like the bad stuff happened, but then it was like kind of in the past. And usually just be like, that's it. I mean, that happened. I can't change the past, so let's just move forward, right? But it turns out, here's a key part of like whether or not you're doing well or like you're not doing well. And even your perspective as to whether or not you're having a good or bad day is your mindset. It's all in your mindset. It's all in your head. For lack of a better term, it is all in your head though. If you're like focused on one bad thing that happened, and you're just like, man, I wish that didn't happen. If only things could be different. If only things could change. If only things, could have changed in the past. Or, as was in my case, me moping and dwelling on things that had happened in the past without focusing on the present or even the possible future, it really just puts you in a bad place. And a lot of things is, there are different things that can influence this. Part of it too is, people definitely, go through legit depression. And so they have like, a chemical imbalance in their brains or whatnot. And so, they need medication for that or whatever. So, that could definitely be a cause for that. Part of it can also be, I think a lot of it too is what you ingest. I think at one point when I started realizing what was going on, I think I said something like it's not that you are what you eat, but it's you are what you consume, or you become what you consume. And that is totally true. I had been, just wrapping up. I think Mr. Robot wasn't over quite yet, but I was watching Mr. Robot. It's a really dark show, so that probably didn't really help things. Even though I do not regret watching the show, but I think it was the compounding factor of watching that show with also, a friend of mine was like, yo, you should, she was recommending I listen to like some music, and I was like, this is kind of like dark and sad, and then she was like, well, there's nothing wrong with listening to sad music once in a while. You can't be one-dimensional and just listen to positive, happy things all the time. And I, was like, well, I'm happy to take suggestions, so I'll check it out. And then I ended up stumbling upon this artist, Juice WRLD. And then I was like, yo, this music looks really good. So I was listening to a lot of it, and I would listen to him like all the time. I think there was a period where I would listen to him like nothing but Juice WRLD. But thing is, and then also I would get into like other music too. But the thing is, like, it was really dark, really, really negative. And I just can't. When you pump yourself full with all of these messages, and you just let yourself listen to nothing but those without anything conflicting, especially nothing positive or especially for those of faith. I'm a Christian, so nothing godly. It's just like, negative, 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 bad stuff. Such and such broke up with me, do 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 do, song, 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 over and over and over again. I know it sounds cheesy, but it kind of is. It's one note. You can't just think about one thing for your entire life, especially when it's just something that happened to you that was bad. What's the point of that? You're just gonna dwell on something bad that happened, and you're not going to be living in the present anymore. Which is kind of like what had ended up happening to me. I'd be on breaks and then just be like sitting around moping by myself. Completely forgetting that I have like siblings, that I don't get the chance to see for the majority of the year because I'm at college. But instead of sitting around moping because, such and such didn't go right for me. Pouty face. Nonsense. That's stupidity. So, anyways, I guess my closing statement is, take care of yourself. Don't pump yourself up with messages that are always going to be negative. If you are like not in a good mind state, then listening to like dark music, it probably is not a good idea. Because, it's only going to confirm to you that your feelings are right to hold. And if you want to, not be so sad all the time, I don't think it's going to help when you listen to music that constantly tells you feel sad. I mean, it's kind of logical, but it does take a bit of time to get it to click. It didn't click with me instantly. Sorry. And also, get some good people around you, too. If you can, if it's possible. Find some good people. To get around you and then just kind of help you through whatever you might be going through. And if it's not possible, if you're surrounded by nothing but like negative people, cut yourself free from those negative people because unless they actually like are caring for you and they have legitimate concerns, but they're just gonna drag you down. And real life people who are dragging you down way worse than like some song that you may play to yourself over and over and over again. Because that's like in the real world. So, piece of advice from me, Casey Rollins. That was a cheesy episode, but thanks for listening, guys. Anyways, if you want like more nuanced advice on these types of things, even though I'm not like, I don't know, I feel like the only reason I'm talking about this specifically is because I have life experience on this sort of thing. Now, if people are dealing with like other things other than kind of what I mentioned, I might not be able to help, but I'm very empathetic. So at least you're gonna get a little bit of pat on the back. It's gonna be okay, kid. You're gonna get that from me at least. So if you want a little bit of positivity, a little bit of happiness, sunshine but no rainbows because I'm not pro LGBT, then hit me up. And now do I have to go into nuance about this because a whole bunch of people are gonna be calling me homophobic now? Whatever, man. No, you just go ask my Pans friend about how homophobic I am. Anyways. That sounds bad. I shouldn't be using him as a token. He's actually a pretty cool guy. I apologize, dude, if you're listening, which you probably aren't, but man. Anyways, this is going off the rails. I'm just gonna stop. This is Countercast with your host, Casey Rollins. I do plan on doing a video soon. And I might talk about this topic on the next episode, but the topic would be why I think that Trump should be retried, because I totally think that he should be retried. Even though I'm a Republican, I'm a pro-Trump fan, and I don't think that he's guilty of stuff, I really think he needs to be retried. But I'll get into it. I'll get into it in the next episode. But thanks, guys, for listening. Go spend your next 30 or so minutes more wisely than you spent these.